یوسف بھی ہیں بیٹھے ہوئے شبر کی چرن میں، یوسف بھی ہیں بیٹھے ہوئے شبر کی چرن میں، آغوش محمد میں حسن آ گئے ایسے، آغوش محمد میں حسن آ گئے، دیکھو اب کوئی بھی خوبی نہ رہی چرخ کہن میں، ہٹتی ہی نہیں احمد مرسل کی نگاہیں، ہٹتی ہی نہیں احمد مرسل کی نگاہیں، خود اپنی ہی صورت جو نظر آئی حسن میں، آدم نے کہا چوم کے زہرا تیری ڈیوڑھی، آدم نے کہا چوم کے زہرا تیری ڈیوڑھی، لگتا ہے کہ پھر آ گیا میں باغ عدن میں، لگتا ہے کہ پھر آ گیا میں باغ عدن میں، زہرا کی ہے آغوش میں یوں نور الہی، زہرا کی ہے آغوش میں یوں نور الہی، کیوں کرنا بھلا نور کا سایہ ہو زمن میں، کیوں کرنا بھلا نور کا سایہ ہو زمن میں، جس وقت قلم ہاتھ میں شبر نے اٹھایا، جس وقت قلم ہاتھ میں شبر نے اٹھایا، جبریل بھی تھرانے لگے چشم زدن میں، احمد کے نواسے نے قلم ایسے چلایا، احمد کے نواسے نے قلم ایسے چلایا، جس طرح سے شمشیر چلائے کوئی رن میں، جس طرح سے شمشیر چلائے کوئی رن میں، مقطع ہے حیدر صاحب نے یہ کلام کہا ہے، حیدر یہ درے سبت پیمبر کی عطا ہے، حیدر یہ درے سبت پیمبر کی عطا ہے، شیریں ہے جو الفاظ سبھی اپنے سخن کے، شیریں ہے جو الفاظ سبھی میرے سخن کے، ایک پھول کھلا یوں ابو طالب کے چمن میں، بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
Time, I'm sorry about that. Just सलवात भेजे हैं आप। इमाम हुसैन की शान में एक कथा और उसके बाद चंद शेर मनक़बत के, बस ज़्यादा नहीं। ये कौन अमनो अमा का لیے پیام آیا، یہ کون امن و اما کا لیے پیام آیا، اور میری زباں پہ یہ بے ساختہ کلام آیا۔ ماہ سیام میں روح نزول کی ترتیب، او ماہ سیام میں روح نزول کی ترتیب، کتاب بعد میں پہلے میرا امام آیا، کتاب بعد میں پہلے میرا امام آیا۔ صلوات بھیج دیں۔ یہ جناب اشرف صاحب کے چند شعر ہیں۔ وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی، بس وہی زندگی، بس وہی زندگی معتبر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی۔ وہ شک پرستوں کا نام و نشان مٹ گیا، شک پرستوں کا نام و نشان مٹ گیا، شام ہونے سے پہلے سحر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی۔ وہ آج کوثر کا مفہوم واضح ہوا، آج کوثر کا مفہوم واضح ہوا، آمد مجتبی کارگر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی۔ اور یہ کمال شعور حسن دیکھیے، یہ کمال شعور حسن دیکھیے، تیغ اٹھی نہیں جنگ سر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی۔ او ہم حسینی ادھر، وہ یزیدی ادھر، ہم حسینی ادھر، وہ یزیدی ادھر، خلد اس سنت دو زخ ادھر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی، بس وہی زندگی معتبر ہو گئی، وہ جو یاد حسن میں بسر ہو گئی۔
Please recite a Surah Fatiha for the Salih Sawab of Sayyid Mehdi Raza Ibn Ali Raza. Bismillah. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله بسم الله. Salawat. Also, please recite 5 times Amma Yujib for the health and of Mrs. Malika Musfi. She's seriously ill. She's in the hospital since yesterday. Please recite 5 times Amma Yujib. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra iza du'a wa yakshifu as-su'u. 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 Amma yujibul mustarra iza du'a wa yakshifu as-su'u wa yaj'alakum khulafa'a.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. صلوات على محمد وعلى آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. Inshallah, on the eve of the 15th of month of Ramadan, today we celebrate the birth anniversary of Imam al-Mujtaba, Imam al-Hasan, known as the Kareem of Ahlul Bayt. The Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraj. A day that we learn what it means to give, what it means to be open-handed, what it means to be noble. And inshallah, this is a day that we can afford to extend those gifts and a day of celebration for our families. So I know there were a lot of ayad that came month of Sha'ban, but of course, Imam Mujtaba being Kareem Ahlul Bayt, we have to make sure that we don't treat him any differently than any of the other Imams. Alhamdulillah, we had beautiful recitation of poetry. I understood some of it, and the little that I understood, of course, spoke to the great character of this individual. And for those of you who spoke that language, I'm sure much of that was not just the praise of the Imam, but also it itself was a reminder of really the height of what it means to be human, to be Hasan, to be good, to spread goodness. In Ziyarah Jama Kabira, we read of the nature of Ahlul Bayt. We say, وَعَادَتُكُمُ الْإِحْسَانِ. And your habit, aada, your custom, is goodness. وَسَجِيَّتُكُمْ الْكَرَمِ. And your essence and your nature is to be honorable, to be giving, to be open-handed. Imam Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam is known for this character of being open-handed, and there are example after example after example that we can bring in his lifetime that speaks to this and serves as an example for us in our lives. But a few introductory points that I think would be helpful to kind of use as a backdrop against the charitable giving of the Ahlul Bayt, as to how Islam approaches this issue of charitable giving, but beyond that, how people are supposed to maintain themselves in a financial way in their lives. See, Islam supports a model of living that allows individuals to live off of the fruits of their labor. People are meant to exert themselves, to work hard, to put into effect the resources that they have, the skills that they have, the energy that they have, so that through that they may be compensated appropriately, fairly, and they live off of that. Which means that Islam does not endorse a culture of being a financial burden on other peoples. Now, this is different from experiencing financial difficulty. Life is, of course, of 2 days, as Imam Amir al-Mu'minin tells us. 1 day is for you, 1 day against you. You may have some great financial times, you may have times of financial difficulty. But being a financial burden means that you are more or less unconcerned with how it is that you're going to provide for yourself, and you are dependent on other people's. And that dependency becomes a habit, it becomes a place of comfort. That's un-Islamic. It also doesn't support the practice of always requesting help from others, always requesting financial support from others. We may be in times where we extend the hand and ask for help, but to be a beggar professionally, the echo came in. To be a beggar professionally is also not an endorsed attitude in Islam. And in that, Islam endorses a way of life and a way of living, a society that reduces poverty. Now, Islam doesn't have a fundamental problem with a person living simply, or even to experience poverty. Islam does not say that all of you should be wealthy, and through the wealth you can be a good Muslim. No. In poverty you can be a good Muslim, and in great wealth you can be a good Muslim. So there's nothing necessarily desirable about one position or the other. But it does have a program of poverty of alleviation, so that when it does come to the point of us helping each other out, it doesn't become a fundamental problem and serve as a crutch towards the advancement of the larger Islamic mission. As a quick introduction, there are a few points that Islam makes, a few stratagems that Islam has that works towards alleviating poverty. Okay, and again, we're using this as a backdrop to the charitable givings of the Imam. Number one, the Imam encourages individuals to work. So much in our tradition that speaks about a person applying themselves, a person not sitting on the sidelines. All of the prophets and the messengers of God worked. Okay, none of them used extraordinary supernatural means to satisfy their livelihoods, their worldly affairs. They all worked. And many of them worked as shepherds, right? They worked shepherds, they had animals, they had livestock, they had farms. In the case of Nabi Idris alayhi salatu wasalam, say he was a tailor, maybe one of the exceptions to prophets. They worked as a tailor, but generally they were shepherds, they worked in the fields. And this was something that not only they did, but when people would inquire about it, they would make sure that they drove that point home. One of the ashab came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the Imam was working in the field. He was digging a hole, digging a well. And he said, Imam, for someone like you, meaning that stature and of this age, it's not really becoming for you to be working in the field and you have this kind of clothes on, you're sweating. And Imam says, what are you talking about? People better than me were workers. And the better people, he said, the Prophet, peace and blessings be on him, was a worker. Prophet didn't just stand there and say, I am the manager, you dig the well, you build the building. No, the Prophet built Masjid al-Nabi. Prophet was right in the middle, stacking the bricks. So he tells him that, no, it's a sunnah of the people of God. Say another time, one of the companion or one of the people, again, had interaction with the Imam. Imam's asking him, what do you do in life? Asking his career, what is your profession? He said, I was a tailor. But recently I've retired, and I've sold my business, and now I'm not employed anymore. Now there's a conversation to be had about retirement. Okay, no one's saying that you have to work until your time to go into the grave. But the Imam, I'm assuming the man was, still had a lot of gas in the tank. Okay, so he told him, in some accounts, and I'm paraphrasing here, well, what are you doing? Why you retire? Says, don't you know that this engagement, daily engagement that you have in your trade, in your business, that's good to keep your mind sharp, right? He says, at-tijara tazidu fil aql. Now again, doesn't mean until alhaakum at-takathur hatta zurtum al-maqabir. Not that, okay? Still making trips on the deathbed. Oh, bring my phone, bring my computer. It's an opportunity. Not like that, but just to say, I'm however many years old, and say, I don't want to work anymore. This transition from working until, back-breaking work, and then the next day just twiddling your thumbs and don't know what to do, that's not good. And we can see kind of the decrease in a person's mental faculties when they make a sudden shift like that. In another example, Imam Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam was busy working in the fields just like other Aimah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. So he says that, again, this Ali ibn Abi Hamza tells him you shouldn't be doing this. And when he tells them better people than me have worked, and this was their nature, see, we look to the life of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. In some accounts they say the Imam, through his own work, through his own sweat, his labor, he used those funds to free 1,000 slaves. Right? أَعْتَقَ أَلْفْ مَمْلُوكٍ مِنْ مَالِهِ وَكَدِّ يَدِهِ. So it's his work, not the inheritance that he had, not any of the things that were made in his disposal. He would work in the fields And through those earnings, he would make sure that he lived, a simple life, but he was driven in his wealth accumulation, at least in one of those projects, to free other people. So working is not an un-Islamic thing. To work and to earn is an Islamic thing. But like I said, for another time, maybe it's speaking of what type of work and how to work and finding balance in work and all of those things, inshallah, a discussion for another time. So it is bad for us to become accustomed to seeking a handout and to promote any sort of policy that encourages this type of behavior is un-Islamic. Someone's young, someone is gifted, someone has opportunity, and most of us, we're all intelligent enough and able enough to do something. We shouldn't ever look at work and say, like, this is beneath me, right? Like maybe an industry all of a sudden has a pop. Some of you may have worked in IT, 2000 pop, right? A lot of people got laid off, okay? No bubble bursts, no more jobs. Now you have to find work. You can't say, oh, I was, senior executive, and now, I'm not going to give the example of Walmart, because Walmart can crash and burn as far as I'm concerned. They're evil on this earth. But a local mom and pop shop has an opportunity that you're going to go work there for maybe like half of the earnings or a quarter of the earnings. There's no shame in that. You're working, you're still earning, okay? So we shouldn't look at these things as beneath us. So that's the first thing, the encouragement of work, and especially for younger people. Islam is not endorsing child labor, but Islam also doesn't like for the younger person to go, oh, you're too young, you're not capable, you're not able enough, so waste your time with other things. No. All right, anyways, please abide by labor laws. Number two, another way of alleviating poverty is through the means of concealing poverty. Now, I say this because it's a sensitive topic. So one of the ways that the poverty is eradicated is through people concealing that. Now, if a person needs help, they should seek out help. A person should not, starve themselves to death because they don't know how or who to turn to for help. There should always be channels open for people seeking help. But they say one of the gems of paradise, one of the four things that are the gems of paradise, one of them is the concealing of one's need or of poverty. It's also the concealing of one's giving. And it's also the concealing sometimes of one's loss. Don't let it totally destroy you, don't overtake you as a person. Ya Allah, I lost my father. Allah forgive him, forgive you, give you patience and all that. But it shouldn't destroy your life and destroy the lives of people around you. Right? Anyways, the poverty is the same way. The concealing of the poverty. And why is that the case? One time, Ashab Mufaddal, this Tawheed Mufaddal that we read is great. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam taught him about what's the meaning of Tawheed. Mufaddal one day came to the Imam and he was just kind of having a heart-to-heart with him. I'm having some tough times and this is what's going on. He's speaking to the Imam comfortably. The Imam turns around and gives him a large sum of money to resolve the debts that he had. Mufaddal turns to him, فَقُلْتُ لَا وَاللَّهِ جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ مَا هَذَا دَهْرِي. My intention was not to come and say these things so you'll give me something. أَحْبَبْتُ أَن تَدْعُ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلِّ. I just wanted you to make dua, Allah will provide for me. He said, Mufaddal, we gave to you, okay? But let me tell you this much. Be careful, don't go around asking just any person. We say any common Joe, any Tom, Dick, and Harry about the needs that you have. سأفعل ولكن إياك أن تخبر الناس بكل حالك. Okay, not everyone is privileged to hear of your challenges. فتهون عليهم, so that your image may become less and lower in their eyes. See, unless there is that understanding of helping one another in a time of vulnerability and not taking advantage of them, unless that's established, if you go to a person, you're running the risk. They may help you, but the strings that come attached to it may ruin your life to the point where you say, I'd rather you never gave me any help and support. Right? Because for the rest of your life, remember that time? Remember that time? Remember that time? That's a crazy compound interest that's coming every time. Remember that time. I'd rather you didn't. But what it does tell us, and based on what we've been reading from Dua 44 of Saifat al-Sajjadiyah, the right way is when people are aware of each other's life and livelihood and living situations, they can more or less pick up and they will initiate. Is there a need? So one of the scholars, grand scholars in Najaf by the name of Sayyid Bahrul Ulum, he had a student by the name of Sayyid Jawad Amili from Jawad Amil. This is a famous story, many of you may have heard it. He says that every night his neighbor, Sayyid Jawad Amili, student of Sayyid Bahrul Ulum, his neighbor would go to the market, and at the bazaar, he would go to buy some foods and some dates. He would buy the cheap dates, okay? You know, we have premier dates, and you have the not so premier. You go buy the cheaper ones. And use those, by that purchase, he would feed his family. One night came, and the debt that he had with the shopkeeper exceeded the amount that the shopkeeper was comfortable with. He said, listen, you owe me money, and I've seen this in my time in Qom. They have books, journals. This person come, he takes some milk. This person come, takes some cheese. This person, whatever. They have journals. He says, your debt has exceeded the amount that I'm sorry. No dates for you tonight. So we went home hungry. Next day, Sayyid Jawad Amali goes to class. Sayyid Bahrul pulls him aside. So I heard your neighbor is sleeping hungry. He doesn't have enough to feed his family. Sayyid Jawad, oh, I didn't know that. Really? Oh, I help him. And he says, if I knew, I would have done something. His teacher said, Bahrul said, listen, the reason why I'm giving you a hard time, I'm censuring you, is not because you knew and you didn't help him. If you did that, you'd be kafir. You're totally, you're on a different plane. You knew your neighbor, Muslim neighbor, was in need and you ignored him. Get out of here. Don't call yourself Muslim. But now that you don't know is the reason why I'm censoring you. You should have known. Right? You should have that close of a relationship with your brother, your sister, a neighbor, or extended neighbor, or community, or whatever, like we said, right? Once a year, go to each other's homes. Oh, I didn't know you lived here. I didn't know you were living like this. I didn't know this is your profession. This, all these things. Once you know, then you begin to say, well, how can I help? Like you're working at Walmart. Why are you working at Walmart? Oh, it's a job. I need to provide. Okay, maybe there's a better opportunity somewhere else. I'll make it happen. Come here. I'll open the door. Inshallah, Allah will open the door and I'll do the part that I can. See, that's the concealing of poverty is supposed to help us in building the relationships. If every time someone needed something, come and said, I have a debt. Someone please give me $1,000 right now. How would we look at each other? Right? And the second thing is how many of us would be driven to actually seek out help that may be needed? We would always just sit and expect. If someone has a need, they'll come and tell me. If someone needed my help, they would have told me. Right? Don't a lot of us think like that? Oh, poor brother, poor sister, this such and such happened. Oh, if I had known, maybe I would have this and that. Islam is saying, had I known, go know. Go ask, go inquire. Don't do tajassus, but go and inquire. Second thing, poverty alleviation. Number 3, and we're coming to the time of Adhan, financial planning. I'll speak about this tomorrow night, inshallah. Taqdeer. Financial planning. Person cannot be totally, wishy-washy with his finances. Totally squander it and then, oh, I need help. I got to pay mortgage. I got to pay car payment. What did you do with your money? Masala, no. Maybe they didn't gamble it in Vegas, but they gambled it some other way. I ruined everything. I'm ruined now. And number 4, inshallah, we'll speak about tomorrow is that balanced living. Now, charitable giving of the Imam. We can expand on this tomorrow night. Imam al-Mujtaba, his charitable givings were of 3 kinds. Okay? One is called Muvasat. One is called Musawat. One is called Ithar. Okay, these 3 categories. Muvasat is when you give to another person, so you hold, let's say, a majority for yourself. Whatever you have, you give a portion of it to a person. Musawat is when you give equally. Half for me, half for you. 3, Ithar. All for you, none for me. Everything. And we have countless examples of all 3. Okay? The one that we know is the Musawat, right? 2 times in his life, Imam al-Mujtaba. That is recorded. That is recorded. Imagine of all the things we don't know, of the recorded history, twice in his life, Musawat. Half for me, half for you. Imagine. And it's not just like half, it's half of everything. I have 2 pairs of shoes, 1 pair for you. I have 2 shirts, 1 for you. I have 2 cars, 1 for you. I have 2 homes, 1 for you. Half of everything the Imam did. This is the charitable giving of the Imam. But inshallah we'll spend tomorrow night also, because Milad of course is tonight, but tomorrow is also the day of Mujtaba's Milad. We can spend the time speaking of the Imam inshallah about these 3 types of giving and what do they mean for us in our models of charitable giving inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the right of this night, the right where we commemorate the birth anniversary of Imam al-Mujtaba, make us also of those who are the students of the Imam's karam, of his honorable giving, inshallah. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi tayyibin at-tahirin. Salawat.
Once again recite Surah Fatiha for the Isal Sawab of Sayyid Mehdi Rada Ibn Ali Rada, and also in after your salat, please make sure you do dua for the people who are in need of our dua, and especially the individual like I mentioned earlier. Oh really? Okay, I didn't really. They're there. Oh please, I'm so sorry. Another Surah Fatiha for the East Halisfa for Dr. Mujtaba and Dr. Misa Musvi, who are also the sponsors of tonight's iftar. For reader Surah Fatiha for Mr. Bekhar Musvi, their grandfather. Bismillah. Salawat.